Welcome back to another episode of the Upland Forum, where we shine a spotlight on the people and businesses that keep our community strong. So today we are talking about something actually every family and business needs, but most people don't fully understand, and that is insurance. Joining us today, which I will bring here up in a moment, is Dori Ferranto, founder of Ferranto Fields Insurance Services. Dori is a respected expert in the Inland Empire, helping clients cut through the confusion and get protection that actually fits their lives, right? She's just not going to sell you things just to sell you things. So let's dive in, get the truth about insurance with someone who's making a difference, policy by policy. So say hello to Dori. Welcome, Dori.
Hi. Thanks for having me here.
No, I'm glad you were able to make it, because this is actually a topic that a lot of people right now, they're going through a lot of changes. Obviously, if you live in California, it's been chaos from as far as I can remember, and people still don't have questions and they're panicking and all that good stuff. But let me start off with, I want people to get to know who Dori is, right? So first of all, again, thank you for taking the time to come on and educate us, folks. Let's start with your story. What led you into the insurance world, and what inspired you to start Ferranto Fields?
So I have been in the business since 1989. I call myself a dinosaur because I am, but I absolutely love insurance. And I know it sounds very weird, but I love problem solving. And that is really what an insurance policy is. When somebody comes to me for coverage, it's like putting a puzzle together. I started out at Allstate in 1989, like I said. And from there, I went on to work in the logging insurance industry. And I also worked in a nonprofit, just doing nothing but nonprofits. Now I'm a generalist. I can insure anything. And what inspired me to start Ferranto Fields, I started with my brother. So my brother is the Fields and I'm the Ferranto. I'm also the Fields though, Carlos. So, and so we just thought, you know what, let's do this. My brother's a great entrepreneur. He's my older brother. So he's definitely taught me a lot about starting my own business and going out there. And I just want to help people. And we want to do it in the style in which we do it. And that's an educational approach. And nobody wants to deal with their insurance. So that's why we want to take that on as a burden. I have a passion for helping people. And when I was little, I really wanted to be an attorney because I really like, again, the problem solving. So reading a policy, it's a contract. I mean, a lot of people, I don't think understand that is a contract you're entering into. And there's a lot of give and take in it. So it's just a lot of problem solving. But really, it's just a passion to help people. And I find it just absolutely fascinating.
So I know that insurance for a lot of folks it doesn't seem really exciting, right? You're the one person that I've come across that actually makes insurance fun, right? So tell us and tell everybody watching what makes it meaningful for you.
What makes it meaningful for me is to help somebody understand what they need and why they need it, protecting their assets and not just selling them a product. So what brings me satisfaction is, first of all, saving people money. You should never spend more money on your insurance ever, ever, ever. And it really comes back to that in this business, it's a relationship business. So you really need to like to work with people. That's really the main part of it, is that I really just want to help people and give them a place where they can actually call me and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not just being told something because she wants to sell me something. It makes me satisfied to unwind things. If people are having problems that I can help them with, and we can get through a hurdle that they've been experiencing and they're so frustrated. And then if I take it on and I can take it off their shoulders, that's what I want to do. I want to do that for them and find them the best coverage that I can for the least amount of money. Again, I never want to see anybody paying more for their insurance. So,
and that actually just brings up a great point, right? That there's a lot of big misconceptions that you hear about in insurance. And I always say, you don't know what you don't know, but you want to have that trusted ally that can walk you through this path of just uncertainty. What do I really need versus what are you going to sell me that's going to help you, but it's not really going to help me in the long run, but get me to be broke. And that's one of the key things that I wanted for you to talk a little bit about is What are those biggest misconceptions that normally you come across?
I think personally, some of the misconception is that we control the pricing and we don't. The other one is when somebody says, "Oh, I have full coverage. I want full coverage." I don't think people really understand what full coverage means. So the liability portion of your policy is, in my opinion, is probably the most important portion, because if you have a loss, a liability loss, like a bodily injury loss, that is very uncertain as to how that's going to turn out. I mean, you're dealing with a person who may not recover. Your property damage, that's a solid thing, like your car. If it gets wrecked, I mean, there's a actual cash value to that. So one of the misconceptions is that you have to have a super low deductible because you just want that and you want to use your insurance. What we advise our clients is, you know what, your insurance really should be used in an absolutely emergency. I know we pay for it. I do know that. But what we've seen is if you're using that insurance constantly as like almost like a maintenance policy, because you have such a low deductible, it very well could hurt you in the long run because of your rates or because you might have to change carriers, that sort of thing. So I think that's one of the misconceptions, or that everything's covered under an insurance policy. And that's not true. So you need to have somebody who can let you know, such as flood on your homeowner's policy, that's not covered. Earthquake, that's not covered. So there's these carve outs that they have. And then there's ways to not add them back, but get the coverage for them.
So talk a little bit about, walk us through somebody who is like brand new. And actually, a lot of the youngsters that have graduated high school are looking into their first insurance coverage. Some of them, are getting their new car for the first time. Obviously, some of them fall into their parents' policy. But talk to a young adult who's starting a family that needs, what are some key types of insurance most people should consider, but they don't until it's too late?
So now a young family, I would definitely counsel. It's not even counseling, but explain to them differently than I would an established family that's owned a home for a very long time. Your liability limits need to line up with where your assets are. So if I've owned a home for 10 years, I've built up equity in my home. So my liability limits should reflect that. Should at least cover to where I think, maybe not all the equity, obviously, but a good portion of it. So then I'm not left without coverage and on the hook myself. Now, a younger family, they might not own a home. They might, just starting out, might be their, first job they're getting out of college. Now they can go with some lower limits. Oh, and the best part is that California just raised the minimum limits. I'm not sure if you knew, before they were $15,000 for bodily injury each person, $30,000 each accident, and only $5,000 in property damage. So that's going to leave you on the hook for anything over that $5,000. So they've now raised it to $30,000 bodily injury, $60,000, and I believe it's $10,000, which to me is, or it might be 15. That one I'm a little bit not exactly sure on, but I don't sell minimum limits, so that's a little reason I sell 25,000 minimum on the property damage, because as well as I do, in Southern California or anywhere, these vehicles are so high tech now. You hit a bumper and it's going to be way more than 5,000. So I would tell them, let's put the limits at where you are in your life. And then as you grow and you gain assets, let's reevaluate. And that is probably the biggest misconception, that you just pay it and leave it and never visit it again. That could be detrimental in the event of a claim. That's the worst thing when you have a claim, to find out that you don't have enough coverage or you don't have the coverage.
So folks, thanks for joining us. Make sure that you are sharing this particular episode as well too, because you guys need to know what you don't know regarding insurance. And I'm glad that we have Dori here as the expert explaining to us some of this as well too. So I'm actually going to put on below on our screen here Dori's website. So make sure you guys visit her. If you have any questions, you can get all of her contact information there. And then you can look up her website and some of the content that she's got on there that's very useful and informational, so you can ask those questions. So All right, moving right along here. Tell me also, because this happens to a lot of folks, common mistakes people make, like while they're shopping for insurance or while they're in the process of maybe renewing their coverage.
The mistakes that they make. Well, for a homeowner's policy, I was just thinking about it. There's a lot of sublimits on that homeowner's policy that people don't know about, like firearms. There's only a certain amount, depending on which carrier you're with, that will cover it up to a certain amount. So it's not your contents limit. It's like a $15,000 limit for firearms if based on theft. Or jewelry. Jewelry is another one. You have jewelry, you need to get that scheduled. Now, being scheduled, you can do a blanket schedule or you can do a itemized schedule, but with the itemized, you need it to be appraised. So I think the biggest mistake they make is not reviewing their policy, not reviewing it, because we don't want to pay more money. I get that. Nobody wants to, but in the end, it's worth it if there's a loss. And I think in California, it's just not if, it's when.
All right.
You know, I mean, we're so populated. The other thing is that always get uninsured motorist on your auto policy. Now, that uninsured motorist, what that does is that acts as if the other driver had insurance. So if you're injured, that's going to pay for your loss of wages. It's going to pay for your pain and suffering. It's going to pay for everything that you would have gotten had that person had insurance. And we have a high volume of uninsured motorists here in Southern California.
Yeah, I remember when I first started as a driver, it was back when wheels were still in stone and that kind of thing. But one of the key things I remember my dad telling me that was crucial and important for him is make sure you have an insured motorist piece to your insurance because of that as well. And this goes back, 30 plus years or whatever. So even back then they were talking about it. I don't know how to this day some folks decided it's just not worth it or whatever,
Yeah, and it's not very expensive. It's not, and you don't have to carry the same limit like your liability. You don't have to carry the same limit on your uninsured motorist. You can carry the minimum limits. And then if you don't carry physical damage, so that's what comprehensive and collision is called, physical damage coverage. Your comprehensive is going to cover everything that you don't collide with except for an animal. If you collide with an animal, that's your comprehensive. Your collision is everything else. So you can get, so if you don't have that on your vehicle, you can get up to $3,500 for an uninsured motorist property damage. So if you're involved in the accident, at least you get something for your vehicle if the other party was at fault. Gotcha. If you do have physical damage, you can pay for what's called a deductible waiver. So it will waive your deductible if you're involved in an accident with an uninsured motorist.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you something also that, in the field of insurance, just like in any industry, even the tech industry, how do you guide a first-time client who's like completely overwhelmed? They've been shopping with company A, company B, company C, and everybody's telling them this is the best, and all of a sudden 3 different answers give you 3 different options, and you know how that goes, right? It's like you get really overwhelmed, and it's like, screw it, I don't want to deal with anybody. How do you guide somebody like that?
So you want to know the truth, how I would take that? I would say, give me everything that they gave you. Let me look at it. Let me market it. And then I will walk them through, this is what this is for. This is what this is for. And if they have a better quote than mine, I'm going to tell them, go with them. So I would take everything and say, you're just too overwhelmed. It's too much to deal with if you don't know it, or you don't, certain things, certain characteristics of like where your home is or your driving record. I mean, that can preclude you from some carriers. So really, Carlos, I would just kind of try to take control of that and say, just give me everything that you've received and let me go through that. And then I will guide you through, and then you can go back to whomever you got it from and compare it with them.
And I think you just made a very key point, which is also that level of trust. Because you just said if their pricing or whatever they're offering is better, you're going to advise them to go with that particular one. Not a lot of, and I hate to say this because not the entire industry is like that, but a lot of people in whatever industry, they're going to want the client no matter what, whether you can serve them or not, just to keep a client. And it takes, I think, not only a good business person, a good leader, actually to know when it's like, okay, you're not unfortunately you're not a good fit and you're better off with what you currently have or whatever. Not many people can do that, you know?
I would prefer to do that because I don't want anybody to be upset that I'm selling them this product and they're like, well, I could have gotten it over here. Why are you trying to sell me a higher price? Although I will tell you, people have paid more to get the service. Right. So, you know.
Folks, if you're just joining us, we are here with Dori Ferranto, our today's insurance expert, who's talking to us about all the behind the scenes stuff that we really don't know about and we should know, right? So I'm glad that you're taking the time to educate us with that. So we talked about family stuff, personal stuff. For a small business owners right now, those that are watching, what kind of coverage do they typically need and what do they often miss or they overlook?
So every business needs general liability, and your general liability is going to cover your bodily injury and your property damage. So those are tangible injury or damage. When you are a consultant, when you are in a professional industry, like myself, you need the errors and omissions, which is your professional liability. And what that is, that responds to monetary losses. It's not physical, it's not property, it's a monetary loss. You gave me advice that I followed and I ended up losing money or something to that effect. I think employment practices is also another one in California, employment practices, and it's really not as expensive as it used to be. I think that's very just kind of overlooked. Cyber liability, and I know you know a lot about this. Cyber liability is probably one of the number one insurances that we are getting asked for and that people need. I mean, it's very important that we get that. But I would say the professional liability portion of it is probably one of the biggest ones that's missed. And the other one being the, the professional, and the general, you need to have for sure workers' comp as well. Right. So even if you're paying somebody like on a 1099, you really should have that work comp in force because they could come back and have you pay for that work injury, which is
so. Yeah, you got to be careful. Exactly right. And there's a tagline that I love that you use all the time because I hear it. You want to share your tagline for us, please?
My CYA. CYA, yes. For your assets. That's it. That is it really in a nutshell. It's the insured, the client's responsibility to come to me and say, hey, this is what I need. It's my responsibility to say, hey, these are all the exposures that I see. You don't have to take every coverage because believe me, I mean, I have my job I have to do based on my, so I want to present you with a whole picture. And some people say, yeah, you know what? I don't want that professional liability right now. I don't have really a big exposure and totally fine. But I think it's important that I at least present it to them in a way that,
So I know we're getting to the tail end of the show, but you're very well known throughout the Inland Empire and then beyond. Talk to folks or share with folks where else do you practice? Because I know it's just not in California. As a matter of fact, one of our viewers was asking, it's too bad she doesn't live here anymore because she's out of California. So where have you grown? I should say that's the question I want to ask you.
So I can write in every state in the nation except New York because I don't want to get licensed in New York. It's too expensive and their insurance is kind of different than ours. But we can write in every state. We've got clients in Arizona, in Utah, in Tennessee, in Florida, New Mexico. So it goes well beyond. And, as a business owner, if you're here in California, your liability follows you across the United States. So if you're going to do work in Nevada, your liability will travel with you. Now your property won't. So that's a key thing. Your property only extends 1,000 feet from wherever you have that location of where the property is. Other than that, you need to get what's called an inland marine policy that is like mobile, takes your equipment everywhere. So that's also another coverage that I don't think a lot of people think about.
So, folks, you've heard a lot of great tips. Make sure that you guys talk to Dori. Let me put the website up here one more time on here. So make sure you write that down, get her the questions, send us the questions. I'll make sure that Dori gets them as well, too. But Dori, we're at the tail end of the show. Any last parting words before we wrap this up?
No, I'm just so thankful, Carlo. Well, yes, because I have a lot to say. You know that.
Yep.
I'm so thankful for being here. Please reach out to me. I am more than happy to help you find your way through the insurance industry. It is not fun for everybody. It is for us that are in it. I really enjoy it. And you'll find honesty and I want to build a relationship with my clients. So you're always going to find a friendly voice. And like I said, I have my brother Joe and Kelly in the office. And so we're very close knit. My husband Santo works with us. So you're just going to find a welcoming environment that's educational and I'm not going to sell you something just to sell you, like you said. And I'm just so happy, Carlos, that you had me on today. I'm really happy.
No, I'm glad he did. This is long overdue and definitely a subject where a lot of people sometimes are even too embarrassed to ask the questions because they feel dumb, that they don't know, something that, and this is folks why I always say whoever we have on this show, that's an opportunity for you to ask those questions offsite, put it on the chat, do whatever it is if you're too shy to actually ask that. But there's no question. I always say there's no stupid question, right? Just stupid people for not asking that, right? That's the way I look at it.
Correct. And I would want people just to ask me just flat out, like, what is this? Or what does that mean? Right. This, that, and the other. And one other thing I just remembered, in California, if we have one employee, you have to get a 401k or that Cal Savers. So we do bonds. So if you have a 401k plan, you have to get an ERISA bond. So we sell all kinds of bonds, but that's probably another coverage that maybe people they're not real, who's thinking about bonds.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
All right, folks, we are wrapping up the show here. If you haven't noticed, I am wearing the brand new Out of the Gate.
Love it.
So if you want to know how to get one, shoot me a text or an email on there, and we'll make sure we can talk a little bit about that. So a big thank you to Dori Ferranto for joining us today in the Upland Forum. She reminded us that insurance isn't just about forms and the fine print. It's about peace of mind, smart decisions, and having someone in your corner who truly cares. So if you're ready to revisit your coverage or finally get that clarity you deserve, reach out to Ferranto Fields Insurance Services and experience what real support feels like. So until next time, folks, if you know a business, also share our forum with them. This is the Upland Forum, where community and conversation get together. Until next time.